before we begin, look around quietly at the room you are in now and ask yourself something unusual. If you had to leave tonight, what would deserve to come with you? Not what costs the most, not what fills space, not what would be difficult to replace, only what truly matters. Because history suggests something strange. The more a civilization accumulates, the more often it begins searching for less. And this has happened so many times in so many different places that it no longer looks accidental. Again and again, when life becomes crowded, someone steps away and discovers something clearer there. Today, we follow those people, and if you listen carefully, you may notice they were not all searching for simplicity. Some were searching for freedom, others for truth, some for peace, yet somehow they kept arriving at the same door. Because the first great minimalist began life surrounded by luxury. A prince protected from discomfort, protected even from ordinary sadness. Gautama Buddha lived in a world carefully arranged so that suffering stayed invisible. But reality eventually entered. Age, illness, death. And what disturbed him most was not simply that suffering existed, but that even comfort could not protect the mind from restlessness. Even where pleasure was abundant, peace remained unstable. The observation changed history, because he began asking whether wanting itself was creating the unrest. Not dramatic desire only, but ordinary desire, the constant leaning forward of the mind. Something more, something next, something else. And his answer became simple enough to survive 2.5 millennia. Suffering begins where craving refuses to rest, which means peace may begin not by adding, but by loosening. A robe, a bowl, bare essentials. To many people this looks severe, but to him it removed interference, and what mattered was what appeared underneath. But then someone came later and stripped away even the robe. Diogenes reduced life so radically that even ancient Greeks found him unsettling. He slept in a large clay jar, owned almost nothing, ignored manners completely, and refused to perform dignity for society. He believed civilization often teaches unnecessary dependence, so he tested what remained without it. And one day, Alexander the Great arrived, the most powerful ruler alive. He offered Diogenes anything he desired, anything, and the answer came quietly. Stand out of my sunlight. not defiance for theatre, something deeper. A demonstration that power weakens when the person before it wants almost nothing. And perhaps that is why the sentence still unsettles people now, because it asks, how much of what we pursue exists because we fear needing less? That question later moved from marketplaces into silence. Jesus taught while carrying almost nothing and said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. A sentence that sounds simple until you notice how exact it is, because attention always follows attachment. Whatever you guard, you think about. Whatever you fear losing quietly owns part of your mind. Later, the Desert Fathers took this seriously enough to disappear into the wilderness. Egypt, stone, heat, silence. Room so bare that almost nothing distracted thought. One teacher, Abba Moses, said, go and sit in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything. Not because walls speak, but because silence eventually does. And many people discover silence is not peaceful immediately. First, it reveals what noise had been covering. Even emperors discovered this, sometimes while surrounded by luxury. Seneca suggested practicing poverty occasionally, not permanently, just enough to weaken fear. Plain food, simple clothes, hard ground. He wanted people to learn one thing, that imagined necessity is often exaggerated. Meanwhile, Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in Rome, wrote privately that almost everything competing for his attention was temporary. His private writings sound startlingly modern now, because the ancient world had distractions, but not infinite ones. And still he warned himself, most urgency is illusion, which may explain why modern abundance often feels exhausting rather than satisfying. Then came an experiment by a pond that changed modern minimalism forever. Henry David Thoreau built a cabin beside Walden Pond, small enough that every possession became visible, every object accountable. He was not escaping life, he was testing it. How much is actually required for a meaningful day? His answer emerged slowly. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, not automatically, not according to inherited momentum. And that may be why his writing still resonates now, because many people suspect they own more than they choose consciously. Elsewhere, another culture reached the same insight without argument at all. In Japan, simplicity entered through beauty. Wabi-Sabi, a cracked bowl kept because of the crack, wood valued because time has marked it, an unfinished edge left visible, nothing forced into perfection, because perfection often removes life. And minimalism here means not emptiness, but reverent for what remains. Across all these curtains, one pattern repeats. Every object asks for attention. Every commitment asks too. Every unfinished want leaves a small door open in the mind. And enough open doors become fatigue. This may be why minimalism returns whenever life becomes crowded. Not because people hate beauty, not because comfort is wrong, but because eventually attention becomes more valuable than accumulation. Perhaps that is the hidden thread across all of history. Not less for its own sake, but less so that what matters can finally be heard. The Buddha found that under a tree. Diogenes found it in sunlight. Thoreau found it beside water. And perhaps now it appears in smaller modern moments. A room with one unnecessary thing removed. A morning without noise. A decision not to buy. A silence left undisturbed. Nothing dramatic, only space. And sometimes space is where life becomes visible again.